right leg, and we're underway.
Here we go.
You know what time the game starts? All right, here we go, fellas. Let's have a little fun today. Is anybody else tired, or is it just me? I got some advice for y'all. Take 2 weeks off, then quit.
From the goal line of 5 to 10 to 15. Through a hole to the 20, to the 30, outside to the 40. He may be gone. Midfield to the 40, the 30, the 25, 20, the 10, 5. Touchdown for Desmond Howard.
Man, what sweet memories those are. Desmond Howard to the house. But the boys of PWW team are in the house for a little live stream. We're calling it a little PWW live here. We got myself, Matt Freilich, of course, Ryan Bowman. I point, but not really sure where I'm pointing. He would be over here. We got Kieran Sprecher and also Ryan Schoberg. Half the squad you guys may know, half the others you guys don't know. So, of course, you know Ryan and I from the PWW podcast we release. Just finished up with our, breakdown of the 16 games for the Packers season. High hopes from Ryan and I, but let's introduce Kieran Sprecher, who you've read all of his takes and definitely educated me on some things that I forgot about through this offseason. Kieran, why don't you introduce yourself and just talk about what you've been noticing in Packers world lately?
Hello, everyone. I'm Kieran, like Matt said. I think, obviously, one of the biggest things that's going on right now is Devin Funchess opting out. We're going to get to that a little bit. I will say that I really like the way that the Packers organization has been handling everything the last couple months. Seem very professional. They seem to have their message spread out throughout the organization. You aren't getting a bunch of different takes. It's pretty uniform throughout the organization. I think they're all ready to be safe and ready to get going. I'm excited.
It's tough not to be excited, just the anticipation of everything, right, too? So keep following Kieran on Twitter and keep getting after all of his content he keeps putting out for us on PackersWorldwide.com. But, of course, above me, I can tell which direction that is, not left or right. Ryan Schoberg. Ryan, you told us where you got the little light thing there behind you. It's pretty cool, but I was really hoping you're going to say, you can share it with us where you got it. But I was saying that you're going to take it from, your third grade cousin. Maybe it was left over from 11-year-old birthday party you used to have, because that just looks vintage to me, but it's really pulling your room together better than mine would probably be pulled together at this point.
Our counterpart Jacob Westendorf said the other day I looked like I was in my parents' basement. So I thought I would spruce it up a little bit today, live from enemy territory in Minnesota. We had to go a little bit of Packer pride here. But yeah, glad to be here. Glad to have the full team here for the first time, kind of since the draft. We had that live kickoff show with the draft with everyone in, and since then we've added Kieran. The team's grown. It's gotten stronger. We're all here. Let's ride, boys.
Most definitely. Does not look like your parents' basement. Maybe just a room in your parents' house at this point, but yeah, it's been fun. Glad to get another live stream, especially now that we're getting towards an actual season happening. We are 6 weeks away from an actual game for the Packers. Obviously, no preseason, which kind of sucks. Fingers crossed, I know. But there's a ton of news we got to get to. We haven't seen anyone or even talked on the audio waves in a couple days now. So let's get to it right now. So first off, coronavirus is affecting the season, obviously, and it's affecting players' decisions. Devin Funchess is opting out of the season. Free agent receiver, basically in a contract year for himself. And I imagine it was a harder decision than most because he's basically taken money off the table that wasn't guaranteed to him. He got signed late in this offseason. And then it was a make it or break it for him, right? He's getting a second chance. He didn't play really football last year after the collarbone injury. So I imagine it was a lot harder for him to decide not to play. But it sounds like he had some personal reasons behind that with some family health issues. But how do you guys feel right now? I guess we'll throw it to Kieran right away. How do you feel, Kieran, about the receiving core as a whole? And what do you feel about Devin Funchess' decision to stay away from football this year?
I think you have to respect anyone's decision, even across all sports, even if it's your favorite player, even if it's your favorite team. You can't get upset at these guys. They have lives outside of football, so I think that's first and foremost. So you respect the decision. I'm sad for him, like you said. This was a make it or break it kind of year. He was playing towards some money. If he played this season, he played really well. He could have extended his career more, and that's not out of the question in the future either. Hopefully he does come back in 2021 if we have a season. Hopefully we can still have him on the roster. I was excited for him. I thought he really added to the offense a big lengthy wide receivers that can block downfield, win one-on-one matchups. But it sucks. Got to respect the decision. I still think the wide receiver core is great. I like the Reggie kid from the Canadian Football League. I'm sure Bowman has a lot of thoughts on him. Kumaro, I still love Kumaro. I would like to see a world where Kum and Reggie both made the team, but that might just be a little optimistic. Other than that, I'm strong, happy with the top two. We'll see what EQ can do, but respect Devin Funchess' decision, and I'm still excited for our wide receiver core.
That's fair. I think it gives opportunity to guys like you said, Jake Kumaro, Reggie Begelton, who, I mean, perfect segue. Ryan Bowman, what the heck do we know about Reggie Begelton? Like, I've heard stuff, and I know the Packers have another Canadian football player, I believe, on their team. But I'm interested in Begelton right now. Does he have a chance? And is it really between, like Kieran said, is it really between him and Jake Kumaro?
So Reggie Begelton was a high performer in the CFL for the Calgary Stampeders. Really, really good player. I think he's in tough to actually get opportunities, though, with the absence of the preseason, with limited reps. I think the guys that are kind of carryovers from last year's roster with, a year in the system, just knowing the offense, are going to be given opportunities over guys like Begelton. So if he's going to make the squad, it's going to be because he flashes on special teams, which he did in the CFL, like both on kickoff returns, punt returns, field goal return unit. Like he is an explosive player. So I think there is a way for him on the roster. It's not necessarily at wide receiver 3 or 4, but you get on through special teams. We've seen that with a lot of players, and then they carve out a role on the team. So I won't say it's an outside shot for that to happen, but the preseason would have helped out guys like Reggie Begelton a lot, and he's going to be tough to get those types of opportunities in practice. As far as Devin Funchess opting out, I was disappointed to see it. Like, obviously, I echo Kieran's thoughts. Got to respect anybody that's making that choice. I've got a young kid at home. If I was a professional football player and somebody said, here's a couple $100,000 to play it safe, like I might be doing the exact same thing, right? So but one thing that it does highlight is a lack of veteran depth. Devin Funchess wasn't going to come in and be Julio Jones and light the world on fire, but what he did do was raise the floor of the experience level of that wide receiver room. And now it's really up to some of those young guys that we've been seeing develop over the last couple of years to step up. Matt LaFleur and his media availability recently was asked about it and who on the team today is going to fill that gap. And the first player that he mentioned was Equanimeous St. Brown. And Equanimeous St. Brown, if we look at the end of his rookie season, and we look at what people were saying about him going into training camp last year, like, he was that guy that was primed to make that jump. And I still believe that. And I think when you hear Matt LaFleur talk about him, there was other guys that he could have talked about on that roster that have been there longer, played more time. That was the first name that he mentioned. So, is it a huge factor or an impact to the Packers that they lost Devin Funchess? I mean, it's not great. We'll put it that way. But there are guys on this team that are primed and ready to kind of fill that gap. And my bet is on Mr. Equanimeous St. Brown kind of slotting into that wide receiver 3 role behind Alan Lazard and Devontae Adams.
Schoberg, I saw, back in your territory, Justin Jefferson comes back from COVID today. So, I mean, I talked about it on the podcast a while ago. Like, it was just unfortunate for the Vikings, but I assumed he was going to be out for a while. But what kind of news are you hearing from you guys in your territory, the Vikings fans? And then what are your thoughts about the receiving corps for the Packers with EQ stepping up?
As far as Viking territory goes, they think the wide receiver corps for the Packers is bare minimum in the league, probably 32 out of 32. If we're being honest here, but big but here, no one's talking about Alan Lazard. I am an Alan Lazard stan. Put that on the brand. That is going to be my brand the entire year. Aaron Rodgers trusts him on third down. That's the biggest part. That's the biggest thing biggest testament, I guess you could say, for a wide receiver to gain the trust of quarterback is to be able to move the sticks for him when counted on that third down. He was in the top 15 of the entire NFL last year when targeted on third down for success rate. That means he's moving the chains for the offense. Drives aren't stalling when Alan Lazard gets the ball. No one's talking about him. So let's start talking about him. Devin Funchess opting out, I think Bowman said it really well, where he really raised that floor of the wide receiver group as far as experience goes. But him opting out could be better in the long run for this team because you have so many guys that are vying for a roster spot, that are looking to take that next step and really establish themselves as an NFL wide receiver. You look at MVS, you look at EQ, you look at Touchdown Jesus, Jake Kumaro, even Beggleton, all these guys who are really trying to establish themselves in the league now get that chance to. And the biggest thing for me, my biggest clap back to Viking fans when they bring up the wide receiver core, nobody runs more 12 personnel than the Green Bay Packers. They don't have a lot of 3, 4, 5 wide receiver sets. So why do you need 3, 4, 5 wide receivers outside of injury concerns? If Devontae Adams, Alan Lazard stay healthy for the whole season, I think they'll be more than fine at the position, and both are more than willing to block, making room for the running game.
Yeah, I'd really like the offseason. I've noticed from Alan Lazard just on social media. It seems like he's really just, really going to take advantage of this opportunity here with Devin Funchess being out now and just having even a chance, even before him being brought in, to be the number 2 receiver for the Green Bay Packers. I'm excited to see what he does because he's a huge talent. Dan Kotnick chiming in. Dan, what's going on? One of our buddies from Pack a Day Podcast, also from Game On Wisconsin. Appreciate you chiming in the YouTube chat. But so they talked about a little bit of that personnel in the press conferences this week. They talked about 13 personnel, 22 personnel, 12 personnel. Let's get into, there's been a few press conferences recently that have been pretty good. I've tried to watch a few of them. The Matt LaFleur one I caught at the end of the day today. I saw and heard a little bit of the Devontae Adams one. The Rodgers one obviously got a ton of media publicity. Is there anything that you guys have taken away from either one of the gentlemen that have spoke, maybe more than once, like Matt LaFleur? But the Kenny Clark one I missed and the Gutekunst one I missed completely. So if there's anything that, Ren, Bowman, I know you watched quite a bit of them. Was there anything from either of those gentlemen that you were taking home? Or are we still just getting a lot of PC talk, a lot of front office talk? There's nothing real too juicy unless it's the Ringer who's coming up with, a video for the Aaron Rodgers one.
So I would say a little bit of both. When we're talking about Brian Gutekunst, it was most of the, GM talk. He's very guarded, and he's from that Ted Thompson, Ron Wolf tree where that's kind of how they approach it. I will say that Brian Gutekunst says a lot more in, probably 1 hour than Ted Thompson says in about a year. So that's always a fresh perspective. So not a whole lot, things that I was impressed with. From Brian Gutekunst's perspective, again, I think we touched on it. Kieran mentioned just the way they're going about this, the way they're supporting their players, the structure, the onus that they're putting on each individual player to make good decisions. And Matt LaFleur echoed that as well, where, I think it's part of that culture that we saw last year where there was internal leadership, self-accountability. It wasn't Matt LaFleur chewing guys out. It was guys buying into what they were trying to do and leadership internally in the team. And I expect that to carry over and have a big contributing factor towards the Packers' success. Teams that approach this and are making responsible decisions while they're out there or not out there, hopefully, are going to have a huge impact on who's available on Sunday. So, those were two things that really stuck out to me. Already kind of touched on the Equanimeous St. Brown thing with Matt LaFleur. One thing I'll say about the Kenny Clark interview was when he first got drafted, and I think he was like 19 or 20 years old. So he's very deep voice, but soft spoken, didn't say a lot. He has clearly grown into a leadership role on this team. And you saw that in that media availability today. So, again, are we getting any juicy nuggets from a scheme or game plan perspective? No, they haven't even gone out onto the football field. But yeah, you could definitely see this guy's coming into his own. Physically, that's already happened for a long time. But as a leader, as a professional football player, he has a voice in that locker room, and it carries weight, and you can see that. So, the only other thing I would say is Davante Adams' press conference was pretty interesting, taking a couple of shots there at the top 100. He's not satisfied with number 57, and he shouldn't be. I mean, we all kind of know those lists are a bit of a joke, but just to see him, it's not going to motivate him anymore. He said, like, it's just more for fun social interactions. But he's also one of those guys that, in the absence of the Jordy Nelsons, the Randall Cobbs, the Donald Drivers, James Jones, like he's the leader of that room, and there's no question now, right? So, as he goes, kind of the rest of the wide receiving core is going to go. And he made a statement of, I'm okay being a hermit, and I hope all the other guys are too. So I expect him to keep that wide receiver room in line.
I agree. As much as I would like to get in some of the other comments he made as far as there being clubs in Green Bay, I will refrain. And he also talked about some of the support that he didn't feel like they were getting for their social injustices around Green Bay, which leads me to believe I'm going to have to go rewatch that one from Davante Adams. I'm interested in that. But, I've lived in Green Bay for about 12 years, and I would say there's maybe about a half of a club in Green Bay. So I'm not sure what he was referring to. Maybe he's referring to going down to Appleton. But we had Coach LaFleur also talk today and about leadership, as Ryan Bowman was discussing. He was asked basically who, as far as newcomers, have you had that's established some leadership within the locker room? And he mentioned Christian Kirksey. He mentioned Will Redmond, a younger player that he didn't expect that from. But that was something interesting to me. Ryan Bowman talked about Kenny Clark. Kieran, is there anyone that you look to now, especially with the Packers being so young? We found out last week that I guess it would be half of us in this stream are actually older than the entire defense. That being the average, the oldest is 27, I believe. So that's kind of shocking to me when I'm turning 30 in about 3 weeks here, which I don't have an issue with it. It's just bizarre to me. But is there anyone on the defense, offense, special teams, Kieran, that you see as like a guy that you want to have step up, will step up, should step up? Is there needs to be leadership? Zadarius Smith established that last year. Who are the other guys that can maybe take over in a younger position?
I think you brought up Christian Kirksey, and like Bowman talked about with Reggie, like I mentioned earlier, the lack of meeting in the offseason due to COVID and everything kind of makes his job harder. But from what I've seen on social media, what I've read about him, from his understanding of Mike Pettine's defense and all of that stuff, I think he can step into that leadership role, but it's going to be even harder due to like not being with the team in previous years and not necessarily getting this offseason time, because we aren't all the Tom Brady's of the world and we can't just break all of the rules and be practicing whenever we want. But aside from that, I think he's the guy that could step up from the field, or step up as a leader on the field and followed by example kind of guy. He's very articulate too, so I think the guys will surround him, like galvanize towards him. But like I said, it's going to be hard for him to be a leader. Kenny Clark, obviously dominant player. The next step for him is to take that leadership role. I saw him and Davante both in their media conferences or their whatever said we're ready to play. Like let's just like get to work, and that's like the mindset that you need to be in right now. You need to be focused on not only your work on the field and your training room and like all that stuff, but you got to be focused out of football and being safe and being cautious and being aware so you can perform on the field, which is
most definitely
to bring it full circle.
Absolutely. And I think all players are ready, right? I mean, we, as it sits right now, we're 11 days from having a Cardinals game in Green Bay. That would have been awesome to see. At least Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins suited up, maybe in some street clothes, but just there was some talent I wanted to see, and there's definitely some talent from the Packers that I wanted to see. But we're about 20 minutes into this, guys, and I haven't, for one, asked Schoberg, what are you drinking right now? Is that a Reds? Truly, much respect. And second question is it's mostly just to answer the question because I'm sure people are asking, what jersey is everyone wearing?
Jair.
Okay. Does anyone know what jersey this is?
6. Is that Derwin James?
Nope.
Is that Deion Sanders?
Yeah. Incorrect. Good guess. Guys, when I get the new jerseys in the mail, I always do a live stream. That just shows you're not watching my live streams.
This one too. So I'm kind of mad that I don't have it right up here right now. But
It's a former Packer.
Former Packer, Florida State. Lay it
Defensive
on.
back. Leroy Butler.
Oh,
I was gonna say, I think I even watched the one where you opened the Florida State jersey.
Should have known that one.
So I noticed today from the website I go to, I this is the first L I think I took on my jersey purchase. I've purchased about a dozen at this point. It was supposed to be a Lamar Jackson Louisville Cardinal jersey. That probably I'm gonna miss out on just with shipping from where I get it from and everything else. They're like the payment's confirmed, but hey, it's I had to throw this on. This is the first time I've exposed it, but I'm excited. Is there any jerseys you guys have on the horizon to be getting? New players, or you guys just wait and see?
Well, Jair's on my list. Schoberg's
That's
rocking
right.
Jair. He's gonna be a purchase jersey before the season starts. Ever since he had the courtesy while he was down in Winnipeg to sign this beautiful football while we were on the amazing Investors Group field. He's been kind of my guy. That's a shout out to Ryan Schoberg. He's my guy. I love Jair Alexander. So I could not think of a guy whose jersey I would want to wear for the next 10 years that's on this team, probably more than that guy. He is so feisty. That play against Adam Thielen on the screenplay, I could watch that forever. And that is who Jair Alexander is just he's just the feistiest guy. I love watching him play football. So he'll be on the list. I got a couple other ones I want to pick up, but I'm definitely Schoberg's got the right one on there, I think, for sure.
so I have a jersey comment, and then I'm gonna talk a little bit about Aaron Rodgers' presser. But my jersey comment,
I thought we were gonna avoid that. I thought we were just gonna blaze over it.
our forearm sleeves, Josiah DeGuara. I'm all in, bro. He
Pretty
is
serious stuff.
in on Josiah DeGuara. He is going to be in this offense so great. Matt LaFleur is going to find so many different ways to use him. It's going to be very fun. And when he has these forearm sleeves on, he's going to be flashing them all over the field, rumbling, tumbling down Lambeau Field in December. There's not going to be a whole lot better than that. But now, Aaron Rodgers' presser. I don't like doing this because I am I like to think I am, an established media member in southern Minnesota. I am calling out the local media in Green Bay. Stop asking hypothetical questions about Aaron Rodgers' future. He doesn't want to answer them. We've had them answered already. So what's left to be said? Let's move on to the 2020 season, ask questions about that, and maybe we can get somewhere. But when 45 of the 60 minutes are being talked about hypothetical questions that nobody knows the answer to, including Aaron Rodgers, it's such a waste of time for everyone involved. There's 5 different guys asking the same variation of a question. Like I said, just a waste of time, and it really grinds my gears personally because, like I said, hypothetical questions don't get it done. Nobody knows the answer to it. Nobody knows when Jordan Love's going to take over. Nobody knows if Aaron Rodgers is going to be traded, forced out, or plays for another team. So let's quit asking about it. Ask him about what he thinks about the 2019 season, what he thinks about his offensive weapons, what he thinks about maybe Allen Lazard taking that next jump, and maybe get some insightful answers out of the main guy on the team.
No, that's go ahead, Bowman.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I could not agree more. I listened to that, and you can just see he's just like, guys, really, if I can't remember who tweeted it out, but I saw it on Twitter this week where somebody said this just came off of during a pandemic where everybody watched The Last Dance and watched how irritated Michael Jordan was that last season, and it's like those kinds of things forced him into retirement, right? Like, it's annoying. It grates on guys. It makes them want to disconnect from the media. And if you want Aaron Rodgers to be insightful and thoughtful, which he always has been in those pressers, if you want that to continue and enjoy this season and next season, if those are the last 2 ones, let's just enjoy the ride and let the Jordan Love era start when it starts. Like, that's where I'm with. So I'm with you, Schoberg. We can just write all that stuff off. Like the next question is going to be like asking him about his relationship status, another equally irrelevant question probably. But for me, it's the football season is here. Let's talk about some freaking football and move on with our day. So I echo those sentiments, Ryan, 100%.
Yeah, it's low hanging, really. That's just the unfortunate part. It's anyone can ask. It's lazy, like exactly like you both are saying, and it's just for 45 out of the 60 minutes. And I mean, it would be more entertaining if they did ask him about his relationship question. At least you get an emotional answer. At least like piss off or something. Like, but geez, just continue ask hypothetical. Like, ask him about some concepts. Really, like if you're covering football, especially in Green Bay, you should have some in-depth knowledge of certain schematic things or anything else related to. Maybe that he'd like to elaborate on or actually talk about to flex his offensive muscle, his brain, I guess. So we talked about jerseys. I don't have a fullback jersey yet. Maybe this is a jersey I'm looking for. John Lovett Princeton jersey might be in the work. Maybe a Packer one. The Packers that's the only fullback on the roster. Josiah Taguara, maybe he's considered that role, but I mean they cut Elijah Wellman, who we'll get to a little bit later. Jordan Jones is also cut. Kid out of Prairie View A&M, I believe. So what do we know about this guy? It kind of blew up my timeline on Thursday when I was at work, and I spent about 5-10 minutes looking at some Princeton highlights, and this guy's all over the field. Like, have you guys dove into who this gentleman is?
He's a poor man's Josiah DeGuara, bro.
I think John Lovett's a little bit tougher not to wear those forearms, but go ahead, Bowman.
Yeah, I don't know much about him. I didn't know anything about him last year. I do know that Brian Gutekunst said in 2019 they did try and sign him as an undrafted free agent, and he did sign with Kansas City. So this is somebody that they scouted, that they know, that they feel fits into this offense and can be utilized as one of those halfback, tight end, fullback type players that it's really about 5 eligibles on the field. Chris Sims had a really good interview with Kyle Shanahan about just the concepts of that offense. And it's not about 5 wide receivers like the Mike McCarthy days. It's about getting 5 eligible receivers on the field in a way that the defense cannot prepare for. And guys like John Lovett, like Josiah DeGuara, they can help you do that, and they don't limit the types of formations that you can be in. So, I mean, is he going to be on the final roster? I don't know. I don't know enough about him to say, but it's clear to me that the Packers really like him, because as soon as they got him off waivers, they turn around and they let go 2 very similar players in Jordan Jones and I can't remember that guy's name. Elijah Wellman, the monster mullet guy that everybody was like so excited about for 24 hours until we cut him right after he got off the plane. So yeah, I mean, anybody like that suits this offense in that way reminds me of like a Kyle Juszczyk in San Francisco. So if they can get somebody in that role, it doesn't have to be Kyle Juszczyk level of play, but just somebody that can affect the offense in the same way and make defenses react in the same way, I'm all about it. Like, sign him up, get him on the lineup, get him on the field. Love it.
Most definitely. And it's crazy, like, the transition that we're leaving from the Mike McCarthy era. We only have 1 season of offensive schemes on paper. We have no preseason to look at, no training camp we're probably going to get to view. So, like, we're still trending away from that when we drafted 3 receivers, right? And we would, invest in that vertical passing game where it's really not that anymore. Game on Wisconsin boys chiming in. I'm assuming that has to do with fullbacks, I would hope. But the one thing I'm confused about, like, I could probably think about, I would say I'm close to 7 of them in my head of the fullbacks or halfbacks they brought in and let go. So that's just tells you either it's not working because it's a specific role, or it's just, I don't know why. Like, they've gone through so many. It feels like a revolving door, but really it just comes down to matchups. You can get that offensive scheme going. It would have been funny if it was about his dating life, honestly. Like, I ask him one question, right? Like, and like, Sly, like, is there any transitions other than maybe possibly, having to wear a face mask that you're worried about that's going to affect your season in the next coming months, especially around the holidays? Like, I don't know. Like, you could allude to it somehow that way. Kieran, are you a fullback guy? I gotta
I'm a
know.
huge
Like,
fullback guy.
are
Huge
you
fullback guy. I
guy?
I was really disheartened to see Danny Vitale leave. He also signed with the Patriots and he opted out. I kind of bought into Nagler's idea that he was going to be a down the field passing threat for a little bit. There was one play against I think the Vikings last year where he got held or something, and Nagler blew up about it and said that it was going to come back. So I'm a huge fullback guy. I played fullback a little bit in high school. Very versatile. Bring it back. I was definitely not as big as John Lovett, or Elijah Wellman. But like you said, the 7 guys, like bringing them in and letting them go, it's kind of a specific role, and hopefully Lovett can fill that specific role. And I will more fullback.
More fullback. I when I saw the hashtag in the banner here before I started, I forgot. Like, it's been months since I was doing my more fullback thing, and like I just feel like I ran that well dry. Like, I guess I have John Lovett now, or maybe Jordan Jones, but
this is the juice that you needed to
It might be. I might need to start working on that again. But I'm interested to see what John Levitt will bring, and if he even makes it through August, and if there's another 1 or 2 guys. Was it Tommy Bohannon was signed last year? Used to be with Nathaniel Hackett in Jacksonville, so like you thought he was familiar with that offense, and he didn't last very long either. I'm surprised Vitale didn't work out. So Seth, yeah, I mean, I thought he was going to last too. This is just inside. Like, I used to see Danny Vitale at the gym I went to, which is just super random. Like, he used to show up there in the morning. I was like, for like 4 weeks straight, I'm like, that's Danny Vitale, and like. But now you're not going to get to see him there anymore. And like the fact that he's opted out, went to the Patriots, like I thought it was a good opportunity there. It sucks. Like he probably doesn't have a chance in this league anymore, but seemed like a super good dude. And I thought he was versatile enough, and he did have flashes. And Aaron Rodgers talked quite highly about him. But as far as guys they've also gotten rid of, they got rid of a quarterback. We talked about Jordan Jones. Unfortunately, Cole Madison was released, which kind of sucked. And obviously the first one to kick it off was Gerald Willis. Any of these that you guys are surprised by, feel a certain type of way by? We'll kick it off to you first, Schobert.
All right. I truly feel bad for Cole Madison. The beginning of his career where the mental health stuff took over, he wasn't able to join the team right away when he could have. You just really got to feel for a guy who had mental health issues get in the way of a guy who really – we don't know, but really could have had a promising career. They were really high on him coming out of Washington State in that guard position, able to really move all along the interior of the offensive line. But, just feel for Cole Madison. Got to be honest, Gerald Willis, don't know anything about him. Jalen Morton, don't know anything about him. Elijah Wellman, Mullet Man, everyone was obsessed with him for 24 hours, like Bowman said. And then he gets off the plane and, thanks for coming, but you can go home now, sir. None of these guys really move the proverbial needle for me, per se, besides just me feeling bad for Cole Madison and the direction that his career ultimately took.
Yeah, the Cole Madison story is kind of sad if you look into it. Had a teammate from Washington State that took his own life. I believe they were roommates, and there's speculation about just the way that went down. And it definitely screwed him up, and justifiably so. But that was the one that I was upset to see go. I believe Jalen Morton and Jordan Jones were teammates in college, if I'm not mistaken. Elijah Wellman had his 24 hours of fame, which was all fun and all, but then Sunday turned into Monday, and we completely forgot about him. And Gerald Willis, I remember him being signed, and there was some buzz. I want to say he might have played for the Vikings. Maybe not. Whatever. So are there any other names, Kieran, that you expect to be cut? I know we're down to 80 now. Where do you kind of see that being? Is that going to be a fluid 80? Is that where the Packers are set? I know there's some like regulation about if they have to split the team in two, if it was larger than that, something along those lines. Is there anyone you think that's on the bubble about to make their way out, or is there anyone else that you would see opting out?
So I have no insider knowledge on who they're going to cut or when they're going to cut it. What I did find interesting is we've had a couple of special teams guys go onto the COVID list, and that kind of like leaves roster manipulation that you can kind of do. And I think that was kind of the deal with Elijah Wellman. I don't quote me on that, but I think that was we signed him and then we had to let him go because of some sort of the COVID restriction list or the COVID injury list. So I think that's something to keep an eye on how the Packers can manipulate their roster and add those extra roster spots when people are going to the injured list and stuff. Like I said, I'm just crossing my fingers that Reggie doesn't get cut. That's my guy.
You're running with him.
I'm with you, Gary, and I'm cheering for that Canadian Football League talent to inject itself into the Packers roster too.
I think there is something big baseball guy, and getting right in the minors, going down, and he dominated in the Canadian Football League. And I think if you have that confidence and you're dominating professionals, obviously the NFL is a big step forward, but he has that confidence. He wasn't just going up against college players, he isn't Justin Jefferson going, like, obviously Alabama's defense is full of NFL caliber players, but the Canadian Football League is ex-Alabama players too. It's still a good competition. I think he has a lot of confidence, and all it takes is a good connection with Rodgers, and he can make the roster.
Yeah, and he's young too, right? I mean, he's in that glory year of kind of his prime yet, as far as receivers go. I believe it's third, fourth, fifth year, something around there. But yeah, his numbers increased every year he was in the Canadian Football League. So I'm excited to see, and especially like we talked about at the top of the show with Devin Funchess opting out, more opportunity for these younger guys to step in. But with the changing offensive, we also discussed, is there room for that sixth, seventh receiver? Probably sixth, maybe not seventh, but. Do you guys, before we get to this last topic here, I just want to open this up to discussion. We had a text message come in from a buddy of mine that's watching, Zach Thielen. Or maybe we should get to Zach T's. We're going to get to Zach T's question right now because it makes even more sense. Clearing space for Everson Griffin. The best person to answer this question, Ryan Bowman, Schoberg, and Kieran would know that asking Ken Ingles would probably be the best bet. Unknown Packers podcast gent and the accountant of Packers salary cap news. But personally, I don't know where the Packers sit with their salary cap. I think we talked about this on a podcast recently that Everson Griffin is going to be cheap, but I know where Bowman sits. I want to go with Schoberg right away. I want to go. I know where you stand.
Just before you go, we know that the Packers have given Snacks Harrison a competitive offer. That came out this week. That it was reported that the Packers have given him an offer. So at least I know in my heart that Brian Kudagunst does listen to our podcast, Matt, took my advice, and did offer Snacks Harrison a contract. Whether he takes it or not, that's on him. But now I'll throw it over to Schoberg here to talk about Everson Griffin, Snacks. What do you think, Schoberg?
Between the two, I'm going Everson. I want Everson on for no other reason.
I know why.
To stick it right in the heart of Minnesota. Nothing warms my heart more than seeing this state be demoralized over Vikings football. Minneapolis Miracle happened. Everyone is so high, so up here. The next week, 38-7. You didn't hear a whole lot that offseason. Everson Griffin coming to the Packers isn't Brett Favre the Vikings-esque, but it is up there because he has been with the Vikings, one, over a decade, and two, he has been quoted as hating the Green Bay Packers. There was one time at training camp, got a little training camp nugget for you. Everson Griffin's on the field and just randomly starts chanting, "The Packers, the Packers," and the crowd just starts going off with it. And Everson Griffin to the Packers he would add pass rush. You can do a lot with that. You can move him into inside 3-tech where Dean Lowry likes to play, 5-tech, all that sort of stuff. You can move him outside. That allows Za'Darius to come inside a little bit more. You want him on first, second down, that's fine. You bring Gary in on third down. You can do something with the Smiths and Gary. It provides a lot of options for the pass rush, but he is equally as good against the run. And that's what this defense needs. That's what this defense would get with Snacks, but they're not getting a pass rush from Snacks. And his play really fell off last year comparatively to the rest of his career.
That's a good point. Kieran, did you imagine that, 40 minutes into the stream that Schoberg would compare Brett Favre and Everson Griffin to one another?
I did not see that one coming. It's quite a comparison.
That's a Ryan Skolberg take. That's Ryan Skolberg.
That's going to be a thing, by the way. Chats with Ryan Skolberg, just getting
Your alter
Minnesota
ego.
Vikings fans' perspectives. I think that's a great idea. We might have to put
Kick it
some
around.
research and development into that one, Matt.
We'll get you a Ryan Longwell jersey even.
Nice. Like that. We could go Ryan Longwell. We could go Brett Favre. We could go Greg Jennings. But I'm not going to go Darren Sharper for obvious reasons.
Absolutely not. We don't even need to discuss why. Kieran, Everson Griffin, snacks, neither, both. Dan Kotnick, who was in the chat, there was a Pack a Day podcast we recorded like last week, and he said he would shave 97 or whatever number Everson Griffin was into his head, or even shave his head. And so he was all in. Kieran, are you shaving your noggin or doing anything crazy to acquire Everson Griffin?
I don't think I'm going that far. I would like either on the team. I don't think both is logistically viable. I do think the Everson Griffin mutual interest has a lot to do with Everson trying to drive up the price on the Vikings. Trying to go to a division rival will increase the price. I like Schulberg's take on Griffin. That he adds more of the pass rush element, but I think we have enough with that, especially if you want to see Rashawn Gary take a step forward. That'll be kind of what his role. So I like snacks for the defensive line. So if I had to make a decision, I would probably side with Bowman on this one and go with snacks just for the run stuffer. Because I don't think we need much more pass rush right now. Pretty dominant pass rush team last year, and add snacks next to Kenny and Kike, and we'd be
Schoberg said Griffin. Didn't he say Griffin?
Schoberg said Griffin. I'm saying snacks.
Oh, yeah, I'm saying snacks.
You're saying snacks.
Don't get me wrong.
Bowman.
I agree with Schoberg in the sense that it would be lovely to – one of my best friends, Mitch, he is a Vikings fan, and he was on our live stream when we did for the draft. So it would be great to just buy a Griffin Packers jersey just to show him that exists. Because I had to look at a Favre Vikings jersey, and it hurt me on the inside a little bit. So to give some of that back might feel good. But I think Kieran made an excellent point that any snap Everson Griffin is getting rushing the passer is a snap that Rashawn Gary is not, probably. So I feel for the long-term development of that very high draft pick that I believe is going to be a really, really good player, I'd rather see them just get – and if it's not snacks, it can be somebody else, just that beef up front to stop the run, because we can rush the passer. We can't stop the run the last time I checked. So that's where my mind goes. But Schoberg, you're not wrong. Part of me would really be happy to see the anguish that signing Griffin would cause our rivals in Minnesota, for sure.
Quick question before we get into the final topic I'm going to shoot at you guys. Was I the only one over the weekend when they heard that a Maybach with Minnesota plates was in the Lodge Kohler parking lot? Was I the only one of us that went on to Everson Griffin's Instagram, his wife's Instagram, and tried to see what type of vehicle they drive, or am I the only crazy one?
I think you might be the only crazy one.
Yeah, I'm gonna disclude myself from that category. I'm sorry, Matt.
No, it's fine. I kind of already knew the answer to that question, but I was bored. I was getting ready for a wedding, and I'm like, maybe I would figure out that he drives a Maybach. Couldn't find that.
Could have been a hot lead for Packers Worldwide, man.
And that's what I was trying to help us.
We appreciate it. You got to be a little invasive if you're going to get the scoop, right?
Of course.
I have to ask, what kind of car does Everson Griffin drive?
It's a Maybach.
Now you do it?
He fixed it.
Yeah.
He fixed it.
Canadian
Impressive.
is really coming out before the show.
It's a Maybach. Is that better?
As he was calling a Maybach. But I digress. Moving on. Matt, back to you.
And also, if you're looking for other social medias for actual Packers, you can check out my article on PackersWorldwide.com. Where they at? That was a journey. We're updating that to the actual website, but we have updates already, and it's gonna be an evolving process.
Yeah, no, I just want to shout out to you, Matt. That was such a great article, and the feedback we got on that article and the traffic we got on the site, lots of people really enjoyed that. I think our followers can expect to see something maybe a little bit more permanent as a spin-off of what Matt's done there. So keep your eyes for that. It's going to be pretty cool. So just if you liked that article, we're not done with that concept yet. We're gonna take that to the next level for sure.
Yeah, so if you ever need to creep on, I guess you could still find Jordan Jones or Elijah Wellman. Like maybe you actually still care about him. But as we transition here, guys, wrapping up, I know everyone's got some stuff going on tonight, so which is great and all. We got Trulies we have to drink and whatever else, and figure out what type of vehicles everyone drives. But real quick, I want to give everyone maybe a 60 seconds, whatever they need to get off. See, I'm not the only crazy one out there looking up at social media accounts, but let's start with Kieran here. What is your hypothesis how this season will go from a league standpoint? I'm going to give you 3 options. 1, flawless, no real serious outbreaks with COVID. The season goes on normal. Middle ground, maybe they have to postpone the season. Maybe some high-profile players get COVID. Or third option, we get maybe to week 9, 10, maybe right before Thanksgiving, they shut the whole damn thing down. But where do you guys kind of fall in there? Kieran, we'll start with you.
I'm gonna say obviously the season's gonna start. They're gonna push it forward. We've had some positive cases already. But they're gonna keep pushing forward. I want to hope with all my heart that they won't cancel it, even if there is a little bit of an outbreak. I hope players are seeing what's going on in the MLB and they're noticing that and I don't want to shame anyone into going out and doing anything, but do you see the kind of negative publicity that the Cardinals and Marlins players are having, and we want to take that into mind and not make these mistakes and go off and have a good season. So I'll say middle ground. I'm sure there'll be cases. I'll be a little bit of a pessimist. I'm sure we'll see some cases. Hopefully it's not the high profile players. Hopefully it's not a day before a big game or anything, but hopefully we finish the season with limited casualties
and just the comparison to MLB to NFL is there's 3-4 times the roster, and it's just personnel wise, coaches, it's bigger. Go ahead.
One thing I'll say real quick is that I was happy to see with the MLB was the fact that you saw the Cardinals and the Marlins and the Phillies played a series with Marlins players having it, and you saw that baseball is a social distance enough where that wasn't transmitted, and that's just not going to be the case in the NFL. These linemen are breathing each other, piles are coming up, they're breathing on each other, spitting all over the place. It's sweat, it's not the same, and that's why they need to take even more precautions and more steps forward, and it needs to go to the nth degree. But I agree. Fingers crossed that they finish the season.
Me too. And it's so much easier to social distance in a dugout with less guys. It's more spread out, and you have an inside locker room. There's going to be guys, you're standing from the 30-yard line to the 30-yard line. There's 52 guys on the sideline. There's all these coaches. You can't social distance that way. It's not even unless they change the rules that you could go slide down further on the sideline. But it's going to be dicey. Bowman's back, getting a refresh on his beverage there. Bowman, where do you stand? Kieran said he's a little bit pessimistic. He thinks maybe a player or two will get COVID, but he expects the season to end. So where do you sit right now?
It's a really tough question. I mean, things change day to day, right? We see it in every state. So it's difficult to predict, but I'm probably of the same mindset as Kieran. There is no possible way that major players aren't going to get COVID through this. I think that's an inevitability. It's going to happen. Just who is it going to hit? Is it going to be a starting quarterback? Is it going to be, a prominent player that, a team's hopes for the season kind of rest on? We'll have to wait and see. Will all the games go on as scheduled? I don't think so. I think there will be games that have to be postponed or delayed or things like that. What happens if 5 guys test positive, the morning of a game? Like what is that going to do as far as playing that game? I don't know. So will the NFL have to be flexible and move things around and pivot very, very quickly? 100% yes. And will they finish the season? Yes, because they're an $11 billion industry and they're not gonna stop. It'll just be how close to the paper plan that they've put forward is it going to be at the end of the day.
Man, I didn't think of that scenario. Like, let's say they're getting to let's say you watch football all day, right? Let's say it's week 1, and we watch the Thursday night opener. We're watching the noon game, Packers kicking the shit out of the Minnesota Vikings in US Bank Stadium, and we get to the Sunday night game, and all of a sudden at like 6:30, I don't know who the Sunday night game is right now. If someone would, that'd be great. But like, let's say they're starting quarterback, they test them before the game, they're getting off the bus into the stadium, and like they can't play. Like, what the hell? Like, that's another scenario I've never even considered, or even the weekend before, or whatever the case may be. And I mean, that is, there's just so many things that are going to happen in the following months that is just it's going to be wild. And I don't even think we're out of the woods even until the first week starts of games. I still think there's going to be something that's going to happen, just because we've seen, only time will tell, and there's more people you're going to get around. Packers have only been in Green Bay, I think, for maybe a week now. So it's just, guys are going to get out, guys are going to get restless, and something's going to happen across the league somewhat, in my opinion. I think that, which is resonating exactly what Kieran and Ryan Bowman have said. But Schoberg will leave the last words. What's your opinion on the season? How's it going to go?
One, I'll say Green Bay has the biggest advantage out of all 32 NFL teams, being in the smallest market. The numbers don't lie. Metro areas do get hit the hardest by COVID. Community transmission is biggest in metro areas. Obviously, more people to give the virus to. You set that aside, I think the team that takes it the most seriously, that does not go out, will have a serious competitive advantage in this season. Teams that are in the hunt will probably take it more seriously. And I don't think you want to be that guy, quote unquote, that really derails your team's season, that you're going out, you're being reckless, you get COVID, and then all of a sudden 13 guys on the roster have COVID, and you can't field like 5, 6, 7, 8 of your starters. 2 weeks ago, NFL came out with a statement on a Friday news dump. Roger Goodell tweaked his saying for the season, and not a lot of people caught it. He said he was starting off by saying before 2 weeks ago that the NFL is full go for a full season to be completed and everything. Now he's changed his wording to not a full season, but just a completed season. So does that mean that we're going to play 8 games, 10 games with 2 weeks in between to make sure that we don't have 8, 9, 10 starters out for a week? Your guess is as good as mine. But just the fact that he changed the wording just a little bit says a lot, because usually the NFL is the last league to change their stance on something, and they've had the most time to prepare. So going forward, will they start the season? Yes. Will they end the season? I lean maybe yes, but lean more towards the yes, because we all know money talks, states, and hey, we need our entertainment. So they're going to finish the season, but it might not look the same as it has in years past.
And I think they do finish the season just like you guys. I'm more concerned for like a week stoppage or a 2 week stoppage to reassess and have people bubble and whatever else, and that maybe takes us into March. But it's going to finish. Like there's too much money involved, which sucks to think, but that's the capitalism country we live in the United States. But I think back to, I don't know who said it, but just back to the team aspect. Like I think it was Schoberg who, whichever team takes us the most seriously is going to succeed. It would be great if all 32 teams did it. It'd be such a great PR stance from them to be like, hey, look at this. We were able to figure this out. We have 32 teams with 50 some odd players compared to the NBA and the MLB and the NHL and the MLS and whoever else, that we're able to pull this off. And it would be pretty awesome for it to happen, but there's selfish people. There's people that aren't going to do that. I mean, for God's sakes, we can't get people to wear masks just going to the grocery store. So the odds of people going out, I mean, granted, back to Schoberg's point, I don't know if anyone's pulling a Lou Williams move in Green Bay, because there's only one strip club, never ate there. There are good wings in Green Bay, but they all, there's an Uber Eats and whatever else. So I don't imagine that that's going to be any temptation around here, but maybe in some bigger cities. But as we move forward through the offseason, we have a few weeks left, as we said, before the Sunday, September 13th game in the Metrodome. I'm excited to keep putting out content with you guys, keep doing live streams, podcasts, whatever else is. We have a few things in the works that Ryan Bowman already alluded to, but keep with us on Packers Worldwide. Tweet at us with hashtags of PWW Mailbox for any questions to be answered during a live stream. If you guys ever have any questions, you can see our Twitter accounts on the bottom. Make sure to follow us. You've had plenty of time to at least tap those in or write them down so you can follow us after the stream. But for myself, Matt Freilich, Ryan Schoberg, Kieran Sprecher, I pulled it off at that angle, and missed it. Ryan Bowman. This is the Packers Worldwide team signing off on our first live stream. You guys be well. Take care. And we'll talk to you soon.
See ya.
Now here's the run-up. Swing of the right leg, and we're underway.
Here we go.
You know what time the game starts? All right, here we go, fellas. Let's have a little fun today. Is anybody else tired, or is it just me? I got some advice for y'all. Take 2 weeks off, then quit.
From the goal line to 5 to 10 to 15. Through a hole to the 20, to the 30, outside, to the 40. He may be gone. Midfield, to the 40, the 30.